Everyone, it's Ken Rakowski, and of course, every week we get to spend time with the people that we met on Saturdays. This is an amazing guest. His book has recently come out. He has transformed. He's a marketing guy. Let's just face it. He gets the idea of marketing and what it takes to bring people to a product or an idea. One of his companies was around fans, fans, circular fans, and his other one's around cleaning products, which we'll touch upon both. He resides in New Orleans, and I'm really happy and excited to have him join us. And Jon Bostock joins us. Jon, first thing is, why New Orleans?
Like most people, you end up living where your wife wants to live. She grew up here, and long family history here. And when we had a chance to really take a step back and think about where we wanted to live, this is such a perfect place. For those of you who have been to New Orleans, it's rich in culture, fantastic food, fantastic community, super diverse culture. So we absolutely love it here.
And the hurricanes?
It's just something you have to deal with. I think, unfortunately, every part of the country has its own unique challenges to deal with these days. And,
you have to pick a natural disaster, don't you?
You really do. You really do.
Okay, so where is that New Orleans? The best breakfast place in New Orleans. What was it? Because New Orleans, everyone thinks about really good dinners and all the good fries.
It's great breakfast in New Orleans.
It's like a serious breakfast town. People don't realize it. Like amazing.
Oh, yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
So, what's entrepreneurship like down by you?
I have been a little involved, not as much as I have been in other areas. I'd say in New York, I've spent the most time getting involved. But what you see in New Orleans really is emerging interest in food and beverage. So you see a lot of investment activity in food and bev. In fact, Dixie Beer Company was one that was here and left after Katrina. There's been a lot of investment dollars to bring that back into New Orleans. So, I think it's one of those cities that has tremendous opportunity. Most of the economy has been driven by tourism, but you're seeing a lot of entrepreneurs come down and really reimagine different categories like film, as an example, based on tax incentives and other areas to really drive growth. But New Orleans, if any of you are looking for unique opportunities, New Orleans is one of those markets that really embraces new ideas, new companies, and anyone who's looking to do something different.
Yeah, but it's got to be different from where you're from, because you go from one extreme to another in some ways, right? Because are you from the East Coast, New York area?
Yes, I grew up in Massachusetts and spent a lot of time up in the Northeast, and then made my way through Kentucky and down here. And culturally, obviously, those areas are so different. I think the biggest area of contrast really is just lifestyle overall. In Louisiana, as an example, people really want to have a very robust social life and a lot of fun. And I think what you see in the Northeast is more people just work and are very focused on that. And there's some good that comes out of that. But, down here, it's incredible the people you can meet in social settings that do the most amazing things. You could never imagine walking into a dinner party, the people you meet and what they do in just the most random settings. And that's very different from, I think, New York or Boston or any of the Northeast cities.
Is that true, Nick? Do you agree with that? Is Boston just an all-work city?
I'll say New Orleans. My favorite vacation ever was New Orleans. New Year's, as well as the first college football playoffs at the Superdome. Best time ever, but I'm a Boston guy, and I love Boston way more.
Well, I love the Red Sox. And I love the Patriots.
He's an F&B guy. By the way, Nick is an F&B guy. So you're on food and beverage. Your family's in that space. I mean, that's where you're at. And when you go to New Orleans, you get that feel, don't you? You really can appreciate the F&B that's going on down in New Orleans.
Yeah, I've been to Tales of the Cocktail. Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah.
So it's a crazy party for bartenders, bar owners, and it's basically a big convention. And it's crazy down there during it.
Yeah, I'll tell you, the city is hungry to get back to those days. And next time you're down here, stay at the Ace Hotel and let me know, because I will be up on the rooftop pool with you, having drinks. So you got to let me know when you're down here. It's one of my favorite spots, one of the best views in the city, and just it's incredible. It's so much fun.
Well, we're going to have fun tonight, guys. Nick, I appreciate it. I'll chime in with you a little later on. So the reason why I wanted Jon to join us, I really like the challenges he was thrown into and what he did to get it into a place of, well, of visibility, but success. And his book is called The Elephant's Dilemma, which we'll touch upon also. But I want to start with Big Ass Fans.
Yeah.
Because to me, it's a great story. How did you get involved with that company?
Well, it's an interesting dynamic, because I think a lot of people focus on certain life cycles of companies, but what they often don't understand and realize is the cycle that someone like me plays in an organization like that. And I'm sure a lot of you have either been in this situation or, found yourself faced with this dilemma. Kerry Smith is a brilliant entrepreneur. He started Big Ass Fans a while ago. And the challenge that he faced was that most of his net worth, most of his energy had been put into the company. And when you're in a situation like that, you often can't see beyond what's in front of you. And I, at the time, was an executive with GE, and I was based in New York City. And I met Kerry a while back, and we started conversations around his company. And really, through listening to him, what I understood was that the company needed to be reimagined. And, just like I think our households, right? If you look at your bank account, no matter how much money we make, we spend it, and we make more and we spend it. And look, we all think we can make more money, but our profitability is never where we want it to be. His company was the same way. And frankly, in a group like this, you can say it was not well run from the perspective of governance. It had a great brand and it had a great product mix, but there were some fundamental issues. I was brought on to restructure the company and help develop an elegant exit. And, it was not easy. When I got into the company, EBITDA was less than $7 million. It had been spiking up and down. And I put a plan in place to reimagine the company, to rethink the way it was structured. And we actually sold it for 20 times unadjusted EBITDA. And we sold it for $500 million a few years back. And it was a home run. And I think, when you think about the challenges that most people face when they build something, it's hard to know when to let go, and it's hard to reimagine what it can be. And I think the other reality is that most people can't imagine that you can create that type of value in a category like Big Fans. And when I very first sat down with Kerry, and this was a very long process, just even before I actually agreed to do this, there was a lot of.
Were you known as a turnaround or an exit guy at that time?
So I had done deal work before at GE, but and I talk about this in my book. This was the first leap to do something that's very risky. And when I say risky, you have to come into an environment and people are impacted by your decisions in a pretty significant way. And you think about the challenge. On one hand, you have someone who's put their life work into something and now it's in your hands, right? And so part of this dynamic was because the company took on his persona, he had to leave, right? You can't sell a company. I couldn't run it, restructure it, and go through the process with him there. And so it was an incredibly challenging situation. But I started out as an entrepreneur. I found myself in corporate America by mistake. So I had that background. At GE, I did investment work and I knew enough about it. But I think the thing that made it work was Carrie and I got along really well, and there was a trust factor there. But it was incredibly complex, and I can tell you that it was one of the most. My current company is sometimes I say is a bigger challenge, but it was the most complex situations that you could imagine, just from so many different angles. And for those of you who have the chance to either sell a company that you built or go in and reimagine what a company can be, it's one of the best experiences you could ever have.
You use this word reimagine, this term reimagine. So what's that mean?
Yeah, I think we do a lot of us, just like my company, right? We imagine what it can be, but I think the value is when someone can come in and introduce new variables, new concepts to bring something to life in a completely new way. And I think that's, look, when you have groups like this, that's where magic happens, because to me, the word reimagine is really built on this idea that I have a core set of beliefs, just like Carrie did. He had a belief that you needed so many employees and you needed processes to work a certain way. When I came in, I understood what he saw, but my interpretation of what could be was radically different. And look, this is a guy who, when it was all said and done, admitted to me that he didn't think we could ever pull that off. I mean, in his mind, he thought the company was worth like maybe $150 million. And, I had to convince him and I had a lot of conviction around the company, but it's hard to believe in what you've built or what you've done. You oftentimes need someone else to provide that perspective. It's a fascinating, I'd love to write a book just on Big Ass, but I think the title would be a little edgy.
Well, that was the thing. When you went and met Carrie, did you go, hey, we got to change the name? Or was he just say, no, I'm not changing it?
There were certain challenges. So as an example, we sold to a private equity firm. And during the deal, the PE firm was very sensitive to the name. And that created some challenges. We also used the media quite a bit to get placements during the deal so that we would show up in the New York Times and other outlets. And, they didn't print Big Ass. And so you had a little bit of a challenge with media that didn't want to write the name. In China, the name wasn't well understood. But it's the main challenge really that we faced was, and if any of you are in the situation, it's, the company was never imagined to be a stable operating environment. He never imagined that this thing that he built was to be sold for $500 million, one of the top private equity deals in the state of Kentucky. And now hopefully it continues to grow and become something bigger and extends well beyond his time.
It's not what you learned in B school, right? Everything you did was more of the school of hard knocks, right?
They don't teach you those things. It's hard. I think the biggest problem with any situation like that is when in business school, things are very abstract and they're not real. When you walk into an environment that has 1,300 employees, and look, the reality is it probably should have 300 employees. So we didn't get it as far down as it should have, but there were some real structural issues. And that's the hard part, right? Business school doesn't teach you how to look in someone's eye and tell them that we're restructuring the company and they're being impacted by it, and know that impact affects family members and kids. And it's hard. And you do that over and over again. And, organizations lose trust, they lose faith. And in all the, during this process, you've actually got to grow sales to sell a company. So it's a wild, and by the way, you also have to manage the rumors and everything that's going around the organization. So it's incredibly complex. It's wild.
You guys got a question or comment? Make sure you put it inside the chat and I'll unmute you. I want to go to Alex real quick. Alex, unmute yourself, buddy.
Hey.
Alex is a recent college grad from Harvard.
Amazing.
And Alex moved to California late part of last year. And he now has been working in a company that is running at 10,000 miles an hour. And I asked him yesterday, I go, is it like what you learned in school when it comes to business? Alex, what'd you say?
Yeah, you can't. I said I've learned 10 years worth of education, but shit you would never learn in school. You can't learn this stuff in school, especially not the top schools.
Isn't that interesting? And this is what Peter Thiel talks about all the time.
Yeah.
He says, you're not going to learn how to be functional in this world today by going to academia, because academia doesn't even understand this stuff. And Alex, you're going through this now. And Jon, I mean, you openly admit it's different in the real world than it is in school.
Totally. Yeah. And it's interesting too, because, you come out of Harvard, and by the way, guys, I went to LSU. And I'm not, you look at, I laughed at the Harvard guys. No offense, Alex. And I want to hear your opinion on this. Seriously, you gotta tell me the truth, because look, at GE, we all started after MBAs, right? And I would always laugh because I'm thinking, I wasn't smart enough to get into Harvard, yet I was dumb enough that LSU gave me a full ride to go to business school. So I graduated LSU with no debt, right? And then I'm at these conferences, where everyone's standing around, and I'm looking at these guys going, we get paid the same thing. We all started in these executive programs. We all get paid the same. And then from here, we go up. And, but you went to Harvard.
Yeah. In my opinion, I think it separates the hustlers from like Harvard is just, and the Ivy League names, it's just unbiased, helpful, and getting your foot in the door at the executive levels. But then you have the hustlers like LSU, and I have best friends who went to UF, and those guys just work harder, and you kind of end up in the same place.
That's
definitely
right.
Evens out the playing field.
We
but then you get the hustlers at the Harvard level, and then then you got me.
Always remember, guys, the A's and B's will work for the C's and D's. Yeah. Just remember that. Okay? It really is. If you guys met Shaheen at the age of 19, being a dropout, had 400 employees making $350 million at 19. And he dropped out of high school. So it gives you an idea. It's the hustlers. And remember, IQ means nothing. Richard Branson has a 91 IQ. 91. So Alex, I'm happy you're here. I'm happy you took your notepad out. Let's go learn from one of the experts right now. So Jon, first thing is we want you to hang with us, okay? This is a hang session.
Love it.
And we want you to totally be open and just kind of be free. And let's kind of go into this direction. You had a nice exit. What did you do with the money you made?
Not a whole lot. I mean, I wish I had some really you're the first person to ask me that, and it's kind of boring. I mean, I didn't really do anything. I do remember, look, the one thing that I'll share, and this is the first time I've ever actually told this story, but I was when the deal was going on, I took some time to be away. It was happening around the holidays. And I really just the stress of getting the deal finished was extraordinary. And so I went down, we were in the seaside area in Florida, which is just a sleepy part of Florida, super beautiful area. And actually the Truman Show was filmed there. So that kind of gives you an idea of what it looks like. But, I remember that I was so excited for the deal to finish because it was freedom and it was, just this is over. And I remember looking at my iPhone and, looking at my bank account and I remembered gosh, thinking to myself, and this is so true. And I've never said this, but it hits me in the way you asked me the question, that I remember thinking I feel tired. I feel achy. You know, I can hear my kids screaming. They need me. Like, nothing has really changed. And so I literally think from that moment, you know, and I knew I wanted to start my own company. And so when you do that, you know, I think you have to be a little bit smart about what you do. But yeah, I mean, I had this overwhelming feeling in that moment that, like, it's still the same world.
It is.
You know, it was the weirdest thing, because it's not, you know, I thought I would have felt more relief and more excitement and more like, but I just remember thinking, like, wow, I still, you know, I still feel old. My hair is still gray. You know,
I was part of broadcast.com, and we sold ourselves to Yahoo.
yeah.
On paper, I was worth a little over $200 million on paper, right? So I'm looking, going, I can buy anything I see in front of me, including buildings. What do I want to buy? And I ended up buying a big burrito, and I got sick that night. And I just never splurged from there, because when you have it, your mind doesn't think that way, because you want to preserve it now because you got it. And that sense of maturity.
Yeah, the other hard thing, I think, culturally, and this is something that I've really tried to do, is, and this is so weird, and I hope, and I'd love to hear from any of you who have an opinion on this, because I'm forming this in my own head, and this is my own self-awareness, but I really struggle with this concept that no matter what you have, right, there's always someone with more, and therefore you shouldn't strive for something that doesn't really exist. And so, you know, for me, it's this constant battle of just being really comfortable with what I have in the moment, and really comfortable with the people who are around me, and really not trying to live to something that, you know, because I don't know about you all, but there are times where I look at real estate listings in New York, and I think, I mean, $90 million for like, that is insane, right? And so it just,
Well, John, stop that for a second. Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Tell me about you. How old are you right now?
43.
43. Tell me about you at 53. Be audacious, be whatever. Tell me about what you will be at 53. Tell me about this man. What is going to be so damn impressive about you at 53?
Yeah, you know, I'll tell you, you're asking some really good questions. This is amazing. You know, I don't know that I've ever done an interview like this, or been in a group like this. So, you know, look, I think what I've realized is when I look at my 9-year-old and my 4-year-old, like, they've got to get it right. And what I mean by that, and what I've observed, is we have a culture that is living in a bubble. And, you know, we have moved for some reason to a culture that doesn't look outside of our four walls. For the most part, people are assuming that doing well means they have money in the bank, and they've either taken care of their kids and their needs, and that's it. I really believe that we will win if our neighborhood wins, if our city wins, if our state wins, if our country wins, and if our global community wins. And so I think, you know, in 10 years, I would really love to get out of the traditional form of business and get more involved into educating younger people around the realities of what needs to happen to truly drive innovation in our world.
Okay,
so
I'm going to help you a little more. I want to help you a little more. So we have one of the guys in our group, his name is Jabu, okay? Jabu is from South Africa. He's an artist. And he was making T-shirts that said "Free Nelson Mandela," okay? And he ended up getting thrown in jail with Nelson Mandela. And he was trained by Nelson Mandela. And now he's a famous artist. And I asked him this question 10 years from now. He goes, he wants to have a museum. He wants to have a wildlife preserve. And he wants to be so recognized that his art is at such high value that having a piece of his artwork would be a rarity. Somebody would want it more than anything. I want you to tell me about you in 10 years and think big. Think about you. There's a reason why I wanted to take you here.
Yeah. Well,
big.
look, I mean, I think educating people is big. Maybe it's because I feel like, from a valuation perspective, I'm doing okay. But
I didn't ask about money. Do you want to have a school? Would you like to have a school? Would you like to have multiple homes in different parts of the world? Would you like to have access to world leaders? Would you like to have a six-pack? That's what I'm asking for.
Yeah.
God, if you could make yourself this dream man in 10 years, what is that dream man that you're going to be?
Yeah, I'd love to take that concept of education and formalize it. So to go down the path that you kind of are, I think, pushing to elevate the concept, without a doubt, creating some type of program for people to actually break free from just the bullshit that we deal with on a day-to-day basis, and to think outside of that. And so, if people can go through that program in the form of a formal, maybe it's the new business school, I have no idea. But
I want you to think about it. Let me try one more. Hey, Nar, come on, unmute yourself, Nar. Oh, here we go, Nar. 10 years from now, tell me about your BHAGs and all that, your big, hairy, audacious goals. Tell me about you 10 years from now.
My 10-year plan. My 10-year plan is to create to have this generation. So I have a school in Afghanistan. My 10-year plan is to have one class completed the 10th grade, so that I can have a workforce for myself, specifically in the industry that I want in Afghanistan.
Amazing.
You're thinking too small. You're thinking too small. There's a reason, guys, and the reason why I'm pushing you here too, Jen. So I want to have 3 books. I want to produce 2 movies, and I want Metal to be 150,000 members around the world with the name More Elite Than Ted. The reason why I want this, and then the reason why I want you to think big, John and Nar and Matt and all you guys in here, is because that's the person we need to admire. Not Richard Branson, not Jeff Bezos, but us 10 years from now. Because we set these aspirations that are tangible because we know us. For you to say, I want to be an astronaut, you don't want to go into space. So that's not an aspiration of yours. So we define ourselves because you've already proven you can take everything else to a exponential level. You did that with Big Ass Fans. So it's time for you to think about yourself going to an exponential level. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So challenge ourselves. And Matt, by the way, you know what's awesome about you, Matt? Man, you could go exponential because you are only going but up. Right, Matt? You're going to kick ass.
The way I look at it.
No, but
that's the plan right now.
It's true. So Matt, homework for you. What is your 10-year audacious plan? Okay? And I'd like to hear that from you. By the way, guys, tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning, if you want to join Sandy and I, we're going to dive after that conversation. Back to John. John, Truman is really interesting to me. Subscription service?
It is, yeah.
Timing is pretty damn good, too. I mean, this is a clean freak world right now, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And, it's interesting. Earlier today, I called into, I've got this radio show in Lexington, Kentucky that I call into every once in a while. And I called into it today and we had this long conversation about this topic. And, ultimately what we talked about was the supply chain. And for those of you who don't know what I'm doing now, I started this company called Truman's. And effectively what we saw, and by the guy who ran marketing for Big Ass Fans, he and I, during the deal, talked about what we could do. And we saw 2 opportunities in cleaning. But you look at the situation we're in today, right? And with COVID, and you look at supply chain, the biggest issue we face is the lack of agility with products moving through the supply chain. But even before COVID, what we saw in cleaning was that most of the products are shipped with water. Now, what Ken's showing you on the site is laundry products, which we just launched. So we put them front and center. But a year ago, we really took the industry by storm by launching spray cleaners that were concentrate version of what you know today. And so when you think about a bottle of Windex as an example, that's 98% water. And when you think about the burden on the supply chain, it's extraordinary. And so we've reimagined the category. We're really building our business to rethink the way not only delivery works, but to rethink how you get products to the home in a much more efficient way. So we started with cleaning. It's a category, as I said, that is so broken that if you're Walmart, even if you're Walmart, you can only make money when someone goes into the store to buy cleaning products. Any cleaning product today that's sold to you through e-commerce is not profitable. So we are actually building our company as a consumer brand that is fun and whimsical and has quirky names and has a lot of the values of Big Ass Fans. But there's some real structural variables. It's one of the reasons why, if you're familiar with Henkel, very large German conglomerate, owns brands like Dial and Persil and Snuggle. They were our lead investor last year. They invested $5 million in our company in the fall to help us reimagine the category.
So you're looking at a market that we know works. Amway bet their whole initial product services on cleaning products, right?
That's right.
Your timing is impeccable because COVID probably only exploded this market sector more, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, the timing has been good for two reasons. One is cleaning products. Obviously, people are cleaning their homes more, but I think what it's also done is it's really made us all look at the supply chain. I think if any of you are impacted by retail and consumer spending, ultimately what we know is for the economy to work, we need products to be on the shelf and we need products to flow efficiently through. And you simply cannot have products that are 98% water and assume that they can flow through when water, by the way, exists in most homes in the United States and can be used for, and frankly, throughout the world. And so, we're not only doing well because of the cleaning increase, but when you look upstream to big companies, they're having an oh shit moment because they can't move products through the supply chain. So we have a lot of IP, intellectual property, built into the spray systems, and we're building out that portfolio. So effectively, any liquid-based product would be used on our platform.
But since you don't have shelf space or end caps or anything in the retail space, people are not discovering you by walking through a retail facility. How do you market yourself? How do you get that name out?
Yeah, so we first of all, the press has been great. In the beginning of the company, the press was extraordinary, and in fact, LinkedIn is a platform. We're super active on LinkedIn. We went viral on LinkedIn twice. We organically drove traffic to our website from 120 unique countries in the first 2 weeks of the company's existence, which was insane. So we've been really able to drive a tremendous amount of organic traffic just off of using media and the press. But clearly we do paid, obviously through the traditional channels like Facebook and Google and other influencer platforms and affiliate networks. But, ultimately, what we try to do is bring in new customers, but then we really look at repeat business as being the way that we're going to win. A little known story, my co-founder in Big Ass Fans built the direct business. There's a small ceiling fan brand called Haiku. He built it from 0 to 60 in 4 years, 0 to 60 million. And so we're taking those same principles with Truman's, where if you look at our customer base in any given month, we're trying to get about 50% of our revenue to be coming from existing customers. And so we're never spending too much on new customers, and we're trying to build that cycle so we can grow and scale, but do it efficiently.
And how much market research per customer are you doing? So if they are new homeowners, are they older, or they have kids, how much deep dive do you go in with them?
Like incredibly deep. The data analytics platform we have is more sophisticated than what we had at Big Ass Fans. And by the way, I thought that was sophisticated. Our access to data is incredible. We know a tremendous amount about our customer base. And then the other thing that we did, which has been extraordinary, is we owned and operate our own customer service team. And that provides a qualitative layer that you could never imagine the value. In fact, you know, when we go back and look at all the things we got wrong, number one, we didn't think that we would need customer service. And then number two, we said if we ever did need it, we would outsource it. Not only do we need it, it's owned and operated all in the US. By the way, all former Starbucks baristas. And so, what? Yeah, it's totally.
I didn't know many of them are not working at Starbucks. I thought they'd be there forever.
Well, so here's what. So when so you know, you talk about these life-changing events, right? So when I was no longer at Big Ass, I didn't know what to do. So, you know, for the longest time of my life, my schedule was down to the minute, right? So I like woke up and I was like, I don't know what to do. And my wife was like, you could go coach a team. I was like, how am I going to have time? Like, I didn't know what it was like that time. So I started going to a local Starbucks, and I would go so often, and I'd be sitting around. All the baristas were like, what do you do? You come here for like 3 hours a day. Like, do you do anything? And I was like, oh my God, you guys are the only ones that don't know who I am. I'm the asshole that fired all those people. So they became my people. I was like, you guys are the only ones in this fucking city who like me. They didn't know who I was. They're all young. So, you know, I found like my little club here in Starbucks. And then as I was starting the company, I would just share things. You know, I'd be like, hey, do you think this is funny? And, you know, so we were in this one Starbucks about 4 hours a day. And then when we actually launched the company, we started getting these, hey, can I get your cell phone? And then you'd get these cryptic texts that were like, you know, can I come work for you guys? And so it started organically. And then like they're rock stars. And so then all their friends wanted to do it. And so
it's all down in New Orleans then. You have your team there.
Well, the company's based in Kentucky.
Got it.
So there's some good tax credits in Kentucky.
Yeah, you're right.
But my co-founder lives in Kentucky. I live in New Orleans.
God, I love all this. Hey guys, I know I'm seeing things pop up. Let's see if we can hit a couple of these things. Let's go with Ben. Ben, let me unmute. Ben, come back. I know you're like massaging yourself like crazy. You're having some fun by yourself. I'm cool with that. Ben, your questions for Jon before we dive into the book. Come on, get your headphones on there, Ben. By the way, it's a nice pair of headphones, but the mic's not that good.
Oh, I'm fucking learning about that. Sorry.
There it is.
Hey guys.
Questions you got for Jon?
Yes, I'm very curious about TV ads, and in general, right? The poll, I believe, has kind of lost our trust as the privacy beacon, right? We gave away a lot of privacy to iPhone, Google, Android, all equally worse. What do you think about TV, and how does TV ads will change in 5 and 10 years?
Yeah,
thank you.
Phenomenal question. And I mean, you have some really super smart people. A couple of these questions are super smart, and I can't share too much about one of the questions, but it's super interesting. On TV, look, I think, and I actually we want to hear your perspective too, but I've got some opinions on it from my perspective. If you look at costs today, and we start with just the ability to get in front of people and the analytics platforms that are available, TV can work today. In fact, if you look at CPMs, it is very, very favorable. The data analytics platforms that exist are very favorable. And ultimately, the ability to produce compelling content is now. I mean, you can do it and you can make a mark. I think the challenge, though, is how we consume it. And so, you know, there are times where I watch live content and where I actually see, you know, I have friends who are founders of companies, and they advertise on if you have the DirecTV app, you'll see their ads through programs like Tatari or others. And, you know, that's great for the times that I'm doing that. But if you look at my schedule on a day-to-day basis, I'm consuming so much content on demand. And so what I think the potential point of friction in 5 and 10 years is our percentage of content that we're accessing on demand. You know, if I look at live TV today, that's going to radically, what is considered live TV, that will radically change.
Yes.
Let's be realistic real quick. I'm not sure what your market is, and I'm not sure if they're the complete on-demand market. I had the opportunity to spend some time with Mike Lindell, and he's the guy that owns My Pillow. And he kills it with traditional terrestrial broadcasts, right? He literally buys almost all of Tucker Carlson's show. I mean, he generates about 35% of his business from that 1 hour of TV. The inventory that's unused is probably the cheapest, and that's the 6 seconds before a TV show. Now you're thinking, why would I want to buy 6 seconds before a TV show? And it's super cheap, by the way. It's because when somebody wants to watch Ellen or Tucker or whatever, they fast forward and they're into the show, so they go back. And when they go back, they generally go back about 10 seconds before the show begins. And there's a 6 second block that sits there. And that commercial time is dirt cheap. When I say dirt cheap, it can be as little as $17 for a market. So this inventory is sitting there, no one's buying it. And I'm just going to tell you, John, that's an interesting market because you're sitting there with a MSNBC or a Fox market. Fox skews a little older. They have kids. MSNBC is younger. Generally, they're double incomes, no kids. But that's cheap inventory. It's actually possibly cheaper than some of your online. The problem is you don't have the trackability of its success other than having a call-in number or a unique URL.
It is getting better. It is getting better. And that's, Ken, I think what, you know, is right on with, I think, where Ben was going over the next 5 to 10, because look, you know, in my house, as an example, we watch TV through an Apple TV device, and the connectivity with programs like Tatari and others allow you to connect the IP. And so I can tell who is watching my TV commercials in that house, and then I can then funnel it into online programs. I think that frankly, for a company like ours, we're a little over a year old. The challenge is, how do you get your brand produced in a way that's to standards at an affordable rate? Because to do it right, to really do TV right, you gotta be perfect from a brand perspective.
John, if you want, there's a guy in our group. His name is Fred Joyle. Love to connect you with him. He created something called 1-800-DENTIST.
Yes, I know that very well.
So Fred turned it into a huge business, all based upon these small, and some of it was idled inventory that wasn't available. I mean, literally was 24 hours before the show going, hey, no one bought this. Do you want it? And he would just sit there constantly, almost day trading inventory.
Yeah, I mean, the fascinating thing, look, and for those of you who know this, I apologize if I'm sharing information that's known, but if you think about Facebook advertising or Instagram advertising, there are people who are churning that out 20, 30 bits a day and testing it and killing the stuff that doesn't work. When you get to TV, it has to be perfect. It has to be produced. You can't do it the same way. You know, I sometimes with my 9-year-old will film him and I'll throw it up on Twitter in an hour, get 300,000 impressions and take it down. And so you can't do that on TV. That's the one barrier that, you know, even for us as a brand, we're young, but we still do have brand standards. We'll play that game on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, where it's like really raw content, but you got to get it right if you're on TV.
Right. Jared, are you still here? Jared, why don't you pop on real quick and ask your question? Come on, Jared. Real quick, Jared, did you do your 50-50?
Oh, of course. Yeah, I do.
I do mine. I got to do mine now.
I do 100 to 200 days, so I'm good.
I know, but it's 50. You could overdo. But hey, I've already run 12 miles today, so just FYI on that one, okay?
I ran to my kitchen.
Yeah. Jared, what's your question?
Did you go to LSU, and if so, what years did you go?
So I was in business school, 2004, 2005.
Oh, cool. My roommate for 10 years here was the mascot during that time, but I cheered a couple years before then. So I bleed purple and gold, my friend.
So now I finally know metal is a cool group. There's someone, like, I was a little on the fence, but now that there's an LSU person in the house, all good.
All right. And your other question regarding Amway, which John will not answer.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, I asked if you partnered with Amway because I used to be a distributor years and years and years ago, and I know they did concentrated cleaners. So I thought when you said that, maybe there was synergy there. And
the only thing that I'll say about Amway, and I know the company very well. I know them very well. Amway's going through just an extraordinary growth phase in Asia, and really trying to reinvent themselves in the U.S. And we're helping them. I mean, we're friendly with the company, and so look, in my philosophy, and if any of you ever need help, and this is what I love about Ken too. I don't look at Amway as a competitor, and there's stuff I can share about Amway and stuff I can't, but we're helping them. We're open to partnering and helping businesses succeed.
Do you know Bill Nicholson? Are you familiar with Bill, former CEO of Amway? No? Okay, just curious. He's got this insane house in Montecito. It just blows my mind. All right, let's go over to Nick, Boston Nick. I love it, you guys. You guys are staying up late tonight. Look at you. You got Puerto Rico, super late in Puerto Rico. It's like 11 o'clock, 11:30? And you got Nick. Nick's way past his bedtime. Generally, he's in his pajamas, ready to go to bed. Nick, what do you got?
I was going to ask if you could speak on some of the sales and marketing strategies you implemented at Big Ass Fans when you started. Then also your thoughts on infinity marketing by creating partnerships with associations like the Consumer Brand Association to promote and expand your outreach and scale as a more smaller company starting off.
Yeah, I'll tell you what Big Ass Fans did so well was cultivating its fan base. And I don't think anyone can appreciate how it really operated like a consumer brand. Okay, so Big Ass Fans is a business to business company. It sells direct, but it really operated as though it was consumer driven. One of the most incredible things that it did was it had a staff of writers. And I will share this with you because it's one of the best marketing strategies I've ever seen. It only works for a company like Big Ass Fans but it's brilliant. The writers provided content for different journals throughout the United States. So if you think about small magazines that need content, that need writers, these writers would write for that. Inevitably, they would have some type of spin that would incorporate Big Ass Fans. And so Big Ass Fans would end up in all of these, constantly, in all of these trade magazines throughout the US. And by the way, these were small things that you couldn't even imagine would matter. But when you looked at certain segments like farming and agriculture and all they had, the awareness was like 80%. If you looked at like the agriculture industry, the knowledge of Big Ass Fans, mind share was 1. And so, I think from a marketing strategy, the first thing that Big Ass Fans knew how to do was arbitrage mind share and really, really show up in unexpected ways, just truly, truly arbitrage it, right? And then the other thing that Big Ass Fans would do that was brilliant is, look, it has a quirky name, right? But it would do these promotions that offered free swag. And inevitably, that would get put on these viral freebie sites. And you'd think, what the hell is a B2B company messing around with free swag on freebie sites? But it proliferated the name and it got excitement. And I think what people forget is that buyers, commercial buyers, are humans, right? They're people. Even if you're buying a $1 billion jet engine, you're a person and you're influenced by marketing. Big Ass Fans really knew that and had a strategy to arbitrage mind share and really get out in front of a lot of people. And then from a sales perspective, all of our sales was in-house and we controlled it. We did not go through distribution. And that allowed for a much better relationship with the customer, and ultimately a much better valuation. You know, if the company was just sold through distribution, there's no way we could have successfully argued for a 20 times unadjusted EBITDA multiple.
Guys, look at that logo. Gotta love it. Gotta love the logo. Hey, CK, go for it. You got the last question before we dive in.
Thank you, Jon, for that advice.
Yeah, and hit me up, man. I mean, if you have other questions, I mean, just, you know.
John, you're going to be a member of Metal, so they're always going to have access, and you're going to have access to this brain trust of incredible guys. All right, CK, go for it.
Oh, I was just curious if you can elaborate on the in-house writers. Did you actually hire them in-house, and then okay, got it.
Yeah, and we do the same thing with Truman's. We have an in-house writing team. We really believe in writing. I write. My co-founder writes. I think writing is an art that a lot of people just don't take seriously. And, you know, I can tell you, we do short form posts on LinkedIn. We get anywhere from 30,000 to a couple 100,000 views every week or every other week, just on LinkedIn. Writing is super important. You know, I have a Twitter strategy where I do a lot of promoted tweets and I respond to those, and I go through phases where I do it more, do it less, but we actually have long form content that we write that complements that Twitter strategy. So, you know, we know there's a certain cadence to trolls, as an example. They troll on us for the same things. So we have long form responses that we include, but we believe in it. And it's a huge competitive advantage if you can get it right.
Are you doing live streaming and podcasting also?
Not live stream. We do podcasts. I do podcasts quite a bit. And you know, my co-founder and I have thought about doing one together. We were actually asked to do it because if you've ever seen our banter on LinkedIn, you would get why. But you know, right now, just in life, having just finished the book, the company is a little over a year old. We're doing an international deal right now. Just not a lot of time. And by the way, guys, doing an international deal during COVID is painful.
Yeah, no, wait, but you brought something up. You said, hey, I worked at GE, I did these deals, big ass fans, I did a great exit. So when you build Truman's, you have to have an exit in mind. So you're building it to sell it to who? Is it Amway? Is that who you're going to sell to?
No, you know, look, maybe. Well, I'll check my text. No, look, I think you have to look at the company in two different ways. Number one is on the platform side, right? If I were Walmart as an example, I would probably want to consider buying us for the IP. So I think there's a lot of different examples. You know, the other thing that I'll be super open about is I think that really what you'll see is a extraordinary consolidation of direct-to-consumer companies. So we're in that category, whether we like it or not. Even though we have IP, whether we like it or not, we're looked to as a direct-to-consumer company. I think there's going to be heavy consolidation, and so if we could find the right vision to roll up some of these D2C companies, and effectively think of it like you're creating the next Procter & Gamble. If we could find the right group, we would probably rather go in that direction, because here's the other sad reality. If Henkel had bought us, so Henkel invested, if they had bought us, they would have killed us. If SC Johnson buys us, the industry won't change. So we really want the exit to allow for our concept to become mainstream.
Makes sense. Okay, so you're a sales, marketing. I'm going to throw PR into that too. That's what you're PR. So do that for your book. Why do we need to buy your book and read it?
Look, I think it's a personal look at, and first of all, it's called The Elephant's Dilemma. And when you think about the elephant and an elephant being trained to be at a zoo, what happens is the elephant is born and it's tethered to a pole. And when it grows up and it gets really strong, it doesn't realize it can break free. That's all of us. I mean, look, my grandfather, my ancestors came to this country with nothing. My grandmother left Belarus, went to Russia, then Japan, and found her way to the United States with nothing. And yet we try to be an entrepreneur, we fail, we go back to business school, and we find ourselves working for these big companies, making a lot of money, and we're scared to leave. I think every single year of my time at GE, I said, I want to do something bigger. I want to make an impact. And there are so many of us out there that we have these moments when we're driving to work, when we're standing in the shower, when we're sitting in the coffee shop, just collecting our thoughts, when we say, we have this moment and we say, I want to do something bigger, and the moment goes away. And we find ourselves 2 years later doing the exact same thing. And so look, I wrote the book to explore my ancestors, how it's informed my decisions, the way I was raised, and frankly, the time that I spent at GE being stuck, and then taking a leap and getting the confidence. And I feel like if I can admit that a big executive at GE didn't have the confidence to go and do something else, that is where we all are. And I think we need to rally around this idea that we can take leaps, we can change the world, we all have permission to do it. And so, the book really serves as a battle cry for that. And, frankly, Ken, I know you were saying it's tough. The way I look at it is it's a message that we all have to rally around, and we all have to support each other and drive innovation forward. It's the only way we're going to make the world a better place.
Jon, I really appreciate you taking out this time. I know it's late by you, but awesome job. Awesome. Guys, what do you think? You love this guy? Should we have him part of Metal? Yeah.
Oh, man, you guys are
definitely,
awesome.
Definitely.
So the only thing that I require is if Ken ever tells me any of you are in New Orleans and you don't get in touch with me, big problem. And Ken, you're going to have to help me with that.
I'm going to do this. You guys probably know